Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Julie Hiert. I am a certified soul level animal communicator, certified soul level intuitive coach, and lover of books. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So today I wanted to do a book video, and it's actually one that I find is in line with the animal lessons for February. So for those of you who haven't seen the video or seen the blog post that I did about the animal lessons for February, they're continuing to help us connect and to become more whole. And in February, they're really looking at us shining our light and also known as roaring. They're also wanting us to let go of old stories that no longer serve us. And they're also wanting to help us balance. And as I finished this book that I'm about to talk about, I realized that this book actually hits on many of those lessons. And I actually think it can hit on all three. And it's a history book, and it's an investment of time, but I can tell you it is well worth it. It actually won the National Book Award for nonfiction this year, and it is amazingly researched. It is fantastic. It is well written. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The gentleman that wrote it is his name is Ned Blackhawk. He is a professor at Yale, and his students on Goodread actually posted some reviews about the book and talked about how they were in his classes, and it was amazing and dynamic, and they couldn't say enough about the book, and I can't either. And the book is The Rediscovery of America, Native Peoples, and the Unmaking of U.S. History. Fascinating read. And I dare say, so the only, I mean, I don't want to compare because it is his own thing. I did find myself thinking many times of Dr. Ibram Kendi's book, Stamped from the Beginning. That too is a new, if you will, or new look at history through the lens of slavery, African Americans, and their contributions. This is the same with Native American people. And I found it, as you can see, it is thick, it is dense. I swear there's like a million pages of notes, not that many, but there are a lot of notes. This whole back section here, that's all notes and references, as well as the index. But fascinating read. And again, like I said, really well written. It's really dense, though. I won't lie, it's very dense. So I highly recommend, if you get it from the library and you can't finish it in the first allotment of time, and I'm sure there's holds on it like there is on mine, give it back and request it or purchase a copy. This is a good one to keep, and you're going to want to loan it out and let other people read it. In fact, you're going to insist that other people read it. At least that's how I look at it. I just want to share a couple of really cool things about this book. First off is that there are so many maps of the native cultures. He does focus on the contiguous, I hope I said that word right, United States. Alaska and Hawaii are not included. Personally, having lived in Alaska, I find a little sad, but I get it. I get it. This was a lot, and this isn't in everything either for this contiguous United States. So totally fine. But I just want to hold up a picture of the map. Just make sure you can see it. I don't know if you can see the number of little words that are on that map. Those are Native American cultures that were here. And he zooms in too, that were throughout the contiguous United States. He does talk a little bit about Mexico too, and what happened there throughout the book. But the number, when I first opened the book, it's actually on the inside jacket too. And I remember my husband and I went to the library, get this book, and I open it up, of course, as soon as I get in the car, and I start looking at it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at all these cultures. And look how many of them aren't here anymore. Like that was the lens through which I looked at it, and I was just blown away. And it's fascinating. So that's one thing. There's other aspects of just there's some pictures in here, and there's pictures of different people, Native American people, who have worked really hard to preserve culture, to preserve their way of life, to make sure the stories are passed down. And he talks about a number of those, as well as sometimes how how sometimes the colonizers would actually work with Native Americans in a good way, and many times they did not, as we all have heard. However, I mean, there's history in here, and I'm sure for those of you in New Mexico, turn it this way, New Mexico, you may know of this person. I had not ever heard of this person. I haven't even heard of the artist that carved that statue. But the statue is of someone named Pope, who actually helped the Pueblo Indians. He created a way for them all around this whole vast geographic area to communicate and unite to have the 1680 Pueblo Revolt. So back in 1680, there's a whole bunch of information. I'm not going to do it justice here by any means. There's also a lot of information about, I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, so forgive me, but Tisquantum, who was also known as Squanto, and I never knew this. I don't really think I knew a lot about Squanto. I know the name, like it sounds familiar, but actually he learned several languages in order to help with diplomacy in an effort to save his culture. His village was destroyed, and ended up working with the colonizers. He went back and forth across the ocean. He'd been to France and England, all of this. You never hear that about what the Native Americans actually contributed to the what became America as we know it now. You don't necessarily hear that, particularly in this older part. Like, I've never heard this part before. I mean, you just heard about them, being called savages and whatnot, and which I never really understood or believed. And there's so much more to it. There's so much more to it. And I wish that we would start to teach these stories to our young people. And that right there is letting go of these old stories, much like Stamped did as well, telling stories in a new way. Professor Blackhawk actually talks about how historians continually analyze history and realize and uncover that there's more to these stories than we've ever known before or ever talked about before. And he's put this book together a lot for that reason. So I'm so grateful for this book because there's just so much information. But just that there were Native American diplomats that went back and forth across the ocean, knew more than one language, knew how to share, and knew how to speak the language, knew how to help people, which of course they did. It was just that, and that the colonizers actually didn't honor that and continue those stories through, as well as let them have a say in other things that they were going on. It's just it's just fascinating. It's hard. This book is also not easy to read, in that there's a lot of heartbreak in it too. So know that as well. I also wanted to share another person that I had never heard of before. Her name was Laura Cornelius Kellogg. She is of the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin. And I lived in Wisconsin for 13 years, and I'm familiar with the Oneida people in Wisconsin. Not very much, but I knew that they were there. But this woman, she was an activist for Native Americans and also for inclusion in the industrial aspect of it, meaning like if you allowed that this is what it says. She argued that indigenous self-determination was best promoted by developing robust industries on native lands rather than by Indians becoming wage earners in settler controlled economies. Never knew of her. I mean, I would love to I know of her now, but I would have loved to have known more about her back in the time. But it's okay. Now we're moving forward and we're telling new stories, and we're letting go of the old ones. And this book roars the whole entire time, as well as finding, I would just even say, more balance in the stories. I mean, if this was also one-sided, right? White people against Native Americans, so true. And then not ever hearing how Native Americans contributed and what all took place. It's much more balanced right now. I mean, this book really helps with that balance. Other people that I'd never heard of were Henry Rowe Cloud and Elizabeth Bender Cloud. They did so much work. He was actually born and raised on the Winnebago reservation in Nebraska. And the both of them really helped change the landscape of Indigenous children having education. Because many of you have heard about the schools where Indigenous children were forced to go to these schools and then they were assimilated. That's a word that's in here. And, you know, they all had to dress the same. They couldn't speak their language. They couldn't practice their culture. They couldn't do anything. They had to be assimilated into white culture. This particular school, though, the American Indian Institute, this had native students learning from native teachers, and those teachers prioritized tribal knowledge and encouraged students to take pride in their Indigenous identities. And this was back in the I want to say 1920s. It's somewhere in here. Of course, I'm not going to find it now. I'm not going to get that right. But it's all here. I didn't know about that either. And then, of course, there's, again, more maps and whatnot. The other thing that I did also find interesting was, and I'm not sure if any of you have heard of the Two-Spirit people. So within Native culture, and I'm sure I'm not going to do justice by this, within Native culture, those that are what we would call trans, possibly homosexual, possibly not the normal heterosexual man woman, non-binary probably is a way to also think about it. Two-spirit people within the Native cultures were revered and very special people and allowed to be who they were. And white culture moved that out of the picture, so to say. And that's a very nice way to say it. And I went back to try to find that section of the book and I could not easily find it. But I did want to mention that is talked about as well as described as to how revered and how much of leaders Two-Spirit people were in Native cultures. So I just wanted to say that last bit. I highly recommend this book. Like I said, it's not an easy read. It is really well written, so it flows. It's just really dense, and there's a lot of information in it. So again, it is the National Book Award winner for nonfiction for 2023, The Rediscovery of America by Ned Blackhawk, a professor at Yale, which is fascinating. So if anybody reads this or has the opportunity to read it and wants to share your thoughts with me, I would greatly appreciate it. I think this is one I'm going to need to add to the library of my own. So thank you so much for being here. Take really good care and enjoy reading. We'll see you next time.